Morning team, how is it going? Been a few days since I've done a live, so I planned it in my diary this morning to get up, get a nice walk, and hopefully positively impact some of you guys. So what are we talking about today? Today's topic is about self-sabotage in terms of nutrition. So when you can't stick to your diet even though you know you should, and you lose motivation, you lose that little bit of clarity on your goals, you feel a little bit deflated, I just can't follow my diet, Sam. I've just lost the motivation, that kind of stuff, self-sabotage. So a client of mine reached out the other day and said this, Sam, I've lost motivation. I've been eating rubbish. I haven't stuck to my diet. I just can't seem to become motivated, and I just can't seem to get a handle on it. I don't know why I do this. I feel guilty afterwards, but then I do it again the next day. The kind of thing. Everyone's probably been here before. I know I've been here before. I've been doing this, guys. I'm 25-year-old right now. I'm 26 in November. I've been training pretty hard, pretty intensely is one of my main values since I was 15 years old. So I've been dieting on and off, for like fat loss and then bulking and then all that kind of stuff for best part of 10 years. I don't really do that now. I just kind of train and eat to be healthy. I'm not really after fat loss and this. My body's just kind of the way it is. I'm in shape pretty much year round because I've got 10 years worth of solid habits. However, I can experience this back in the day. I've failed more diets than I've had successful diets, to be honest. I've probably attempted about 10 diets in my life where I'd be like, right, this is the time I'm going to get in shape, best shape of my life. I've been in great shape 2 or 3 times, obviously I've competed and things like that, but for the most part, I've pretty much failed diets. Why? Because I made a lot of mistakes. I've talked about the mistakes, going too low in calories, eating too clean, not knowing about calories and macros, that sort of stuff, but that's way back in the day. But I get it, I get how it makes you feel. It makes you feel like crap. When you tell yourself, I want to follow a diet, and then you can't do it, it makes you feel like crap. It demotivates you. Yeah, you lose progress. It affects your mindset. It affects your mental health. Bottom line is, guys, if you do something that you don't do something that you said you want to do, and you don't do it, it affects your mental health. There's no way around that because it lowers your confidence. You lower your confidence, you lower your mental health. You lower your ability to deal with stress. You lower your ability to believe in your own ability, in your own actions. You know what I mean? It affects your mindset. So it's important. You know what I mean? But this client reached out to me and said, Sam, I'm struggling. I'm sitting down. I'm not training. I'm eating rubbish. I've lost motivation. I know I shouldn't do it, but I do. And the question I asked her is, what do you get from this? Because bottom line is, guys, right, there is no such thing as self-sabotage. That's the first point I'll go over in this video. People say, I keep doing this and it's self-sabotage and I'm sabotaging. There is no such thing as sabotage. Do you know why? Because in that moment when you decide to do something, you do it because you get something from it. Even though you're trying to follow your diet, you truly from the bottom of your heart want to drop body fat. You want to change your body. You want to follow this diet. But for whatever reason, this environmental barrier crops up, or this mindset barrier crops up, a certain stressful feeling, a certain emotion, and all of a sudden your brain starts to make that connection. Food makes me feel better. So even though you shouldn't, and you don't want to, you end up sabotaging your diet. But bottom line is, guys, you didn't sabotage it because in that moment, you wanted to do that. You wanted to turn to food for comfort because you got something from it. You wouldn't do it if you didn't get something from it. So you have to understand, self-sabotage, it doesn't exist. You do things, you base your actions off what you want in that moment. So in that moment when you're feeling stressed, maybe a little bit overwhelmed, hungry, whatever the emotion is as to where you're making the connection to, I am going to turn to food for comfort. You want that because you wouldn't do it otherwise. So self-sabotage is not a thing. So what you have to ask yourself, if you keep doing something, you keep saying to yourself, right, I'm not going to do it, and then you end up doing it, and then you feel guilty after. You have to ask yourself, well, I'm only doing it because I'm getting something from it. What is it? That's why you do it over and over, because you get something from it. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. Does that make sense? Hello? Morning. That's all right, don't worry. Dogs on the morning. So what was I saying? Yeah, self-sabotage doesn't exist because in that moment you do. It's the same with people that say they want to go out, they want to stop drinking. You know what I mean? I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to go out. But when they feel a little bit stressed, a little bit overwhelmed, bored, whatever the emotion is, where they've repeatedly made the connection to I'm going to drink to make them feel better, they've got no idea how to make themselves feel better, so they will ultimately partake or participate in that behaviour again because they get something from it. You only do things when you get something from it, guys. If you think it's a self-sabotaging behaviour, it's not. You're doing it because you get something from it. Whether that's comfort, whether that's taking your attention off things that worry you, whether that's stress relief, whether that's a social occasion, whether that's to fill in your time so you're not bored, whatever the thing is that you keep doing, you are only doing it because you get a benefit from it. That's my first powerful question I'm going to ask you today. What's one behaviour that you currently partake in that you wish you didn't? That you tell yourself, oh, I'm sabotaging my progress, I'm sabotaging this. Like, example, I've got friends who are terrible with money. They ask me because I'm quite a good saver. I'm a really good saver. I don't spend money on anything I don't need. I just wear gym clothes. I don't go on nights out. I own my car, so I haven't got a massive monthly payment coming out. I'm good with my money. I save. You know what I mean? That's just who I am. I save money because I like to go on holidays and travel, so I save it for that. Pretty much. And I've got some mates who come to me and say, "How are you so good with saving money?" I'm terrible. Some of them are on good wages and they can't save for shit. And they say, "I want to save, but I just can't." I says, "Well, the reason you keep spending money on things is because you're not doing anything to fill your time, and just telling yourself, I'm not gonna spend money on this and that. I'm gonna save. All of a sudden, when they get that urge and they're trying to resist it, they haven't replaced the habit with something that gives them that feeling. So they just spend to make them feel satisfied, and then after they go, "Oh, I shouldn't have bought it. I can't save for shit." It's like in that moment, you perceived more benefits to spending your money to give yourself the feeling that you wanted over the fact that you said you wanted to save. It's the same with fat loss, guys. You can have a fat loss goal. I want to get in shape. It's really important to, so you can be so motivated. But bottom line is, if in that moment you perceive more benefits to going off your diet and turning to food for comfort, you're going to do it. It's not sabotage because you wanted it. You got a benefit from it. So what you need to do is figure out, what is that benefit? How does it make me feel? And how can I get that feeling through something else? So relating this back to food, a client of mine reached out, "Sam, I can't follow my diet. I've lost motivation. I really, really want to do this, but I just can't. And every time I end up binging, I feel guilty after, but then I do it the next day." So this is how you have to think of it, guys. This is how you have to think of it. When people turn to food for comfort, when they binge eat, when they stress eat, they are not doing it for the food. It's not the food you want. It's the feeling that eating the food gives you. Yeah, it's the feeling that it gives you. So what could that be? Like I said, it could be stress relief. Could have had a hard day at work. You feel frustrated, you feel stressed. In that moment, when you feel like that, you perceive more benefits to turn into food for comfort than following your diet. Even though deep down you know you want to follow your diet. That's your goal. But in this moment, the positives of following your diet are far outweighed by the positives of how this makes me feel. And you'll feel better for 5 minutes, you'll feel better for that night. It'll take your attention off the stress, it'll take your attention off the anxiety, it'll take the attention off whatever it is, whatever feeling you want right now, and you'll change your state, you'll change your feeling based off your action. And if you've repeatedly done that your whole life, if you repeatedly turn to food for comfort, then in moments of stress, you will do it every time. Every single time. Why? Because you know the benefits, the short-term benefits you get from turning to food for comfort far outweigh the negative feelings of not dealing with that. So if you just sit there and say, "Oh, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed," and not do anything to make yourself feel better, you will always turn to food eventually. In the end, whether it's later that night, later that day, later that week, because you know deep down it gives you short-term comfort. So when you ask yourself that question, why do I keep falling off track with my diet? Why do I keep self-sabotaging my progress? Why do I keep losing motivation to diet? I'm just going to turn around. It's simply because in that moment, you perceive more benefits to going off your diet and binge eating because it makes you feel better. Even though the day after, you go, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that, I feel so guilty." In the moment, you decided, you made a decision, if I binge eat, it's going to make me feel better than if I don't binge eat. So it's not the food that gives you that feeling. Sorry, it's not the food that you want. It's the food, the feeling the food gives you. And what is that? It's comfort. So if you can understand that it's the feeling that you are chasing when you are stressed, anxious, and you're looking for something to make yourself feel better. I've said this before, this behavior pattern is the same for everything. It's the same for gambling. It's the same for drugs. It's the same for sex. It's the same for food. It's the same for spending money. It's a person feels a certain emotion that they don't like, and all of a sudden they'll start to make connections within their brain with certain habits they've done their whole life. Like I said, some people it's food, sex, gambling, spending money, drugs. It's when they feel stressed, overwhelmed, a little bit on edge where they don't like it, they will immediately look for things to give them short-term comfort. And for a lot of people it's food, because food's so easy. Food's nice, it's available, you know what I mean? It's comfort, it's easy. Like how easy it is to just stand up and go, fuck it, I'm just going to eat the takeaway, or fuck it, I'm just going to have this. And it'll take your attention off whatever's bothering you for what, an hour? It'll hold your attention, it'll make yourself feel better, give you some fulfillment, you know. There's been studies on showing you, what tasty, like, sugary, sweet, nice tasting food and the feeling of fulfillment can actually do. You're literally releasing dopamine and serotonin in your brain when you do that. You know what I mean? Same as like drugs, sex, that sort of stuff. It's comfort that helps us release some happy chemicals in my brain, and we'll feel better temporarily. So when we know that, in times of stress, even though we know we don't want to go over our diet because we know it'll go over our calories and will not drop body fat, even though we know that, we'll do it in times of stress because we value the short-term comfort and the feeling that gives us over not doing it. Does that make sense? So, like I said, even though that goes against your goal, even though you want to follow your diet, you want to get in shape, it's bothering you, that you've got no confidence, you've gained weight, you're not happy with it. Everyone's been there where you just look at your body and think, I'm not happy, I want to change. And that's fine, by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. That's great. You've got to reach that point in order to change. If you're not at that point yet where you look and ask yourself how you feel and think, I'm not comfortable with how I look, you'll never change. You'll just be satisfied to keep going because you're perceiving more benefits to turn into comfort. So self-sabotage, guys, and specifically relating it to dieting, it's not a thing. Self-sabotage doesn't exist. Why? Because in that moment you perceive more benefits. You wouldn't do it otherwise. No one's holding a gun to your head and saying, you've got to binge eat now. You made that decision. You took that action for whatever reason. The reason, it gave you some sort of comfort, fulfillment, and in that moment you perceive more payoffs to binging than sticking to your diet. Even though the next day you look at it and think, oh my God, I've lost progress, why did I do that? In the moment you perceive more payoffs to binging than not binging. So what do you need to do? If you just tell yourself, I'm not going to eat, I'm not going to binge eat, I'm not going to binge eat, but then you don't deal with whatever situation stressing you out, you will just make the connection mentally to turn to food every time, because you're going to get that feeling that you want. So what do you have to do? You have to replace the feeling. So if you're binge eating, it's normally due to, like I say, dealing with stress, dealing with something that you want to change the way you feel. So you need to figure out, what is the feeling that food gives you? What is the feeling that going off your diet gives you? What is the feeling that binging gives you? Whether it be comfort, whether it be lowering your anxiety, whether it be helping you sleep, whether it be taking your mind off something, whether it be just filling your time without being bored, whether it's a social occasion, whether it's going out with your girlfriend, boyfriend, I don't know. You need to figure out what that feeling is that food gives you. Then you need to think what other action can give you that feeling. And once you replace it, because you can't just quit the habit, guys. Like someone who like I said, I've made this analogy before. Someone who just says, I'm not going to go out drinking tonight, I'm not going to go out, I'm spending too much money, I'm sick of drinking, I want to stay in. If you just say that, and you're used to going out every week, if you just say, I'm going to stay in, you just sit there staring at the walls. You're going to stare at the walls, and then eventually you're just going to go, I'm not going out. I'm not going out. Then you're going to go, oh, fuck it, I'm going out. Why? Because you didn't replace the habit. The feeling of going out on the drink with your friends give you something. It give you some sort of fulfillment. You liked it. You enjoy yourself. You will take that feeling every time over discomfort because you didn't replace the habit. So what do you need to do? You need to make some of that plans. So if you don't want to go out and drink and go on the session with your friends, but if you don't replace what you're going to do, you're just going to stay in the house and think about it, are you? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Eventually you're going to do it. That's what you tell yourself. It's crap, guys. It's a bullshit action. Why? Because it's not powerful enough to hold you to your goals. Why? Because in times of stress, we will always turn to short-term comfort to get us through. I do this. You do this. Everybody does this. Why? Because it's quick, it's easy, and it's powerful. So you need a more powerful leverage. If you keep binging, if you keep fucking up on your diet, it means your leverage to sticking to it isn't powerful enough. What do I mean by leverage? Leverage and motivation is two different things, guys. Motivation is kind of a momentum of energy. You need to start thinking of motivation as a momentum of energy. When your energy's high, motivation's high. When your sleep's high, when you're energetic, when you've got enough oomph in you to do the daily tasks, you tend to be motivated. When you're down, whether you're physically stressed, where you've been training hard, you haven't had enough sleep, enough nutrition's not very good, motivation's going to come down. Or if you're mentally stressed, you're worrying about something, you are wasting energy on stressing about something in your life, that lowers your energy and therefore your motivation. So motivation, it's more like energy. It's more like physical and mental energy gives you the motivation. Motivation's nothing to do with leverage. Leverage is something else. Leverage is like, go and run that marathon, Sam, or I'll shoot you in the head. That's leverage. And I know that's an extreme example, but bottom line is, guys, someone said to me right now, Sam, I want you to do 50 laps of this field in an hour. I'd say, fuck off. No way. No way, I haven't got the energy or the motivation to do that. If you pulled out a gun and said, Sam, run 50 laps of this field or I'll shoot you in the head, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to run 50 laps of the field. Why? There's a powerful leverage holding me to it. You get what I'm saying? I know that's a stupid example, but that's what leverage is. So if you keep fucking up on your diet, if you keep saying, I want to do this, and you fall off track, what are you doing? You're just lowering your confidence, which lowers your motivation, lowers your mental health, lowers the quality of your life. So you need to get a handle on this. First of all, ask yourself, do you really need to lose weight? Is that going to benefit your life right now or is it not? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you need to figure stuff out. You need to figure other areas of your life out before you try and focus on fat loss. You know, because like I said, guys, fat loss, yes, it's calories in, calories out, it's training hard, it's doing this, it's doing that. But bottom line is, if you can't come up with enough mental, strategies, you can't come up with a strategy mentally to be able to deal with the stressful situations in your life, to be able to follow this diet, then it's not going to work. So if you're in this position now where you find yourself often turning to food for comfort, you keep binge eating, even though you tell yourself, I'm not going to do it, I don't want to do it, you want to lose fat, you're saying you're going to stick to it, and then you just turn to food for comfort, binge, the whole cycle starts again the next day. I'm not going to do it, then you binge. People live their lives in this. It's so sad that people live their lives in this zone of, I'm going to do this, I want to lose weight, and then just not being able to because they can't deal with stress, because they can't stop binging, they can't stop comfort eating. Why? It's because you haven't figured out a strategy to deal with the stressful situation in your life, and you will always turn to food for comfort. So until you replace the habit of what gives you comfort, you'll always binge. So binge eating, it's not about changing your diet, it's not about changing this, it's not about changing that, it's a mindset thing. You have to come up with a new strategy, because this strategy that you've got right now of just telling yourself, oh, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to lose weight, it's not fucking working. It's not powerful enough. You haven't got anyone holding a gun to your head. You know what I mean? So metaphorically, hypothetically, you need that powerful leverage of someone holding a gun to your head. Now, I know that's extreme, but can you think about something that can hold you to your goal? What is the leverage? So ask yourself this. What is the impact of me falling off track and turning to food for comfort? The impact is I don't stick to my calories. What is the impact of not sticking to my calories? I gain weight. What is the impact of me gaining weight? I lose confidence in my body. What is the impact of me losing confidence in my body? It lowers my mental health. What is the impact of me lowering my mental health? It increases anxiety and increases the potential for emotions you don't want to feel, like depression, like overwhelm, like lack of confidence, all that things you don't want to feel. Okay, what is the impact of that on my life? I'm not going to be as happy as I could be. You're starting to see, guys, powerful leverage. So now you're going to have to ask yourself, do you perceive more benefits to binging and just turning to food for comfort and just taking the easy way out every time? Because if you do, you're going to lower your confidence, increase anxiety, increase depression, lower your chances of happiness. You're starting to see now, powerful. Instead of just, I couldn't stick to it, it's now become, I'm affecting my mental health, I'm lowering my confidence, I'm increasing my anxiety. It starts to become more powerful, doesn't it? So you have to ask yourself those powerful questions. But also you have to come up with a strategy at how you are actually going to stick to it. If you just tell yourself, I'm not going to binge, that's not powerful. There's no powerful leverage such as a man holding a gun to your head saying that, because you've got nothing holding you to it. As soon as you feel a little bit shit, you'll just turn to food for comfort, because that's what you've done your whole life. Yeah, it's easy, it's convenient, it works, it's powerful. The leverage of that is powerful because it works. You know what I mean? You need to create a powerful leverage to stop you from doing it. So if you keep turning to food for comfort, like I said, you are not sabotaging. It's not a self-sabotage, doesn't exist. Why? Because in that moment, you perceive more benefits. In the moment, microsecond-wise, you made the decision, you connected the dots inside your brain. If I do this, it gives me short-term comfort. And all of a sudden, your goals that you have are slightly lowered on your values, and you now value feeling comforted more than your goals. It's that simple. Otherwise, you wouldn't have made the decision. Like I said, guys, there's no one holding a gun to your head telling you what to do. You made that decision. You need to own that decision. You need to ask yourself, what impact is this having on my life? You need to go down the list of the impact. Like I said, impact of binging lowers confidence. Impact of lowering your confidence, increased anxiety. Impact of increased anxiety lowers your mental health. Impact of lowering your mental health lowers your chances for happiness in your life. What happens if you're not happy? Others around you, who you love, who you're in a relationship with, who you're friends with, they don't get to see the best version of yourself. You don't get to step up and become the best version of yourself for them. You know, you are literally not fulfilling your potential as a human. You know, you're not becoming the person you could be because you're always relying on this short-term comfort to get you through. You know, and it's a powerful way to think about dieting. But bottom line is, guys, living with a body and feeling a certain way that you don't like, it's not good. It's fucking draining. It's draining. Okay, so if you don't have the body that you want, this is essentially the questions you've got to ask yourself. Do I value this current behaviour of binge eating more than how it makes me feel? And if you can't get a handle on your diet, all that means is you value the feeling food gives you over how the feeling not looking how you want to gives you. You might be in pain. You might not like the way you look. You might be unhappy with, you know, the amount of body fat you've got, or the amount of muscle you don't have, or whatever body confidence issue you've got right now, whatever you're thinking about yourself, which is nothing wrong with that, guys. I'm not one of these people who says you've got to judge your body and this and that. I think you should base yourself off how happy you are. Like, if you're happy, that's the thing. Some people are happy who are slightly larger. Some people are happy they have to be lean. I don't know. That's totally dependent on you. It's not my job to tell you how to be happy. It's my job to show you how you can figure it out for yourself, so to speak. So if body confidence is something that is high on your value list, like, you tell yourself, look, if I want to be happier, I've got to drop some body fat. It's pretty obvious. You know, most people who are in the shape that they are not happy with, it affects their life. It affects their confidence. It has an impact on a lot of things. You know, nobody wants to be out of shape, guys. You know, we'll talk about this all day. Like, we can say, oh, you need to learn to love yourself and this and that. That's fantastic. You know, and those people who maybe they are overweight and they are happy with how they look and feel, that's amazing. And who am I to tell you that you should change? But if you are making the decision by saying to yourself, I want to lose weight, you know what, I'm not happy, then I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. If you've made the decision, like if you signed up with me for my coaching program, that means you weren't happy with the current way you looked and the current way you felt. Let's not beat around the bush here. Let's just call it how it is. You're not happy, are you? Otherwise, you wouldn't have signed up to the program. So if you've signed up to the program and then you still can't get a handle on your diet and you still keep turning to food for comfort, you're not sabotaging. You're just doing a behaviour. You're doing a specific action that gives you something. Once you figure out what it is that it gives you, it's normally comfort, normally lowering anxiety, lowering stress. Figure out another action that doesn't involve food that gives you that same feeling. Because it's not the food you want. It's never the food you want. Binge eating, it's a slight eating disorder, sort of. It's disordered eating, it's comfort eating, it's stress eating. It's not really talked about as an eating disorder, but it slightly is, isn't it? It's disordered eating. You know, you're using food and the feeling it gives you to get something from it. You're not using food for what it is. Food's your fuel. It's your fuel to survive. It shouldn't be used as a stress reliever. It's a bad habit to get into because it's easy, it's powerful. And if you continue to use food as a stress reliever, ultimately, you can end up going over your calories. And if you continue to have that behaviour habit of turning to food for comfort, eventually you're going to gain weight. And if that persists for a number of months, years, you could end up finding yourself in a position where you look at yourself and you think, you know what, I'm not happy with how I look now. Some people stay in this zone their entire lives. They have weight problems their entire life. They don't look how they feel. They don't like how they look and feel their entire life. That saddens me. That breaks my heart to think that there's people who have stayed in this zone all of their life. If I'm not happy with how I look. How must that affect your confidence? You know what I mean? How much of an impact is it having on your life? I said some people might be happy. God bless. Go for it. If that will make you happy, you're truly happy. No one should tell you how to look, how you should look. It's about that feeling. But if you've made the connection of I'm not happy with my weight, I want to change it, you've got two options. Yeah, some people might not like what I'm about to say, but like I said, I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear. You've got two options. If you're in this position right now, right, where you are like, I am unhappy with how I look, I want to drop body fat, but I just can't seem to get a handle on it. I keep turning to food for comfort. You've got two options. You continue to do the same shit you are doing right now, turn into food for comfort, and you will never ever change. You'll never drop body fat. You'll just gain more and you'll lose more confidence. You'll increase more anxiety. You'll lower your mental health more. You'll be more open for depression and emotions you don't want to feel, and you'll ultimately not be happy. And if you're not happy, you can't positively impact the people you love at your highest level, can you? Which means that you are not fulfilling your potential, your true potential that you could be, the person that you could be in this world, physically, emotionally, mentally. You are not fulfilling that potential. You are not doing what it takes to be your best. That's essentially it. Or you can have the second option. You can start to come up with a strategy at how you can change your habits and how you can start to perceive more benefits to following your diet than binging. So if you just tell yourself, I'm not going to binge, you'll end up binging. You need to figure out what is the feeling that it gives me. If it's comfort, figure out something else that gives you comfort. And this is that one thing I'll say, guys. It sounds harsh, right? But none of us are starving. None of us should be hungry. If you ever find yourself saying, I'm starving, just have a think for a second. Have a think for a second. You're not starving. Kids in Africa who have to walk 20 miles with a pot on their head for a tub of water, they're starving. You're not starving. Okay? You're not starving. You're not hungry. You've just ate 3 hours ago. You're bored. You're either bored, you're either stressed, okay? Or you're not filling your time with something that inspires you. So what do? Your brain will make a connection of, oh, if I eat, I feel better. And that's what you do. That's what the Western world, England, Europe, America, that's what we have a problem with. We have a problem with overeating because it gives us comfort. And there's adults here who are 20, 30, 40, 50 years old who've never figured out another way to make themselves feel comforted. And that's why they turn to food all of the time to give themselves the feeling that they want. You know, that's an action that you know makes you feel better, so you do it over and over. And until you figure out another action that you can take to make you feel better, you'll always turn to food for comfort. So you've got two choices. Continue to do the same thing you are doing right now and continue to feel the way you don't want. Or call yourself out and say, yeah, I'm turning to food for comfort because I've got no other way that make myself feel comforted. I need to find out another way to relieve stress. Take this vicious circle of you really want to do it, but in times of stress, you abandon your goals and you'll turn to comfort because you perceive more benefits in relieving your stress at that moment with food than staying true to your goals. But even in the end, you always fall back, oh, I'm so guilty, I wish I didn't do it, I'm going to try again. You just end up in this cycle. I like to call it the shit zone. It's called the shit zone because it's a shit place to be. It's a certain zone that you can't seem to get out of. You're in this constant loop of wanting to drop body fat, yet when something happens in your life, you turn to food for comfort. You just can't seem to break the link. Why? Because you haven't got a habit to replace it. You need to replace the habit. Yeah, you need to replace the habit. And like I said, I repeat this before I go. Self-sabotage ain't a thing. No such thing as self-sabotage, whether that's involved with, you know, food, drugs, drinking, whatever the habit is that you keep doing that you say, oh, I don't want to do, spend the money, you know, ordering takeaways, whatever it is. You keep sabotaging your finance, you keep sabotaging your diet, you keep sabotaging your career, your relationship, I don't know, whatever it is. Whatever the behavior is that you tell yourself, oh, I keep sabotaging, I don't know why I do it. You do it because you get something from it, otherwise you wouldn't do it. Figure it out what you get from it, whether that's comfort, whether that's filling time, whether that's a social occasion, whether that makes you just feel good, I don't know. Figure out what the feeling that food gives you, or the habit gives you, or the behavior gives you, and figure out another way you can get that feeling. Because if you don't figure out another way how to get that feeling, you will always turn to food. You'll always turn to spend the money, whatever the habit is you're trying to break, you will always turn to it. Why? You haven't replaced the habit. You've just said you're not going to do it. That's not a powerful leverage. So in times of stress, when you feel like shit, you will ultimately make the call in your mind in a microsecond, I'm going to binge eat. Why? Because you want to feel better. You crave this feeling. You want to change your state. You don't feel good. You're anxious. You're depressed. You're down. You're bored. You know, you're fatigued. You've had a bad day at work. All of a sudden, you need a pick-me-up. You need your fix. If you've done that 50,000 times in your life, where you've grabbed something that's not going to fit your calories, or you've ordered a takeaway, or you went out drinking, or you've done something, even though you know deep down it's not a part of your goals, you'll do it because you've got no other way of feeling the way you want. Does that all make sense? That all makes sense. So ultimately, guys, you know, binge eating, it's hard. I get it. I get why people do it. The feeling that it gives you is why you do it. And I've been there. I used to be a terrible binge eater. Morning. I used to be terrible for binge eating, but you know, what did I do? I figured out something else that gives a good feeling. So fight these stressful feelings, guys, with things that inspire you. You can't be stressed and inspired at the same time. So ask yourself that question: what inspires me? What do I love to do? What can I do instead of eating when I feel stressed? The reason you eat is because you've not given yourself anything to do. You haven't created a powerful enough leverage to hold you to your diet. You know, but think about it, guys. Think about it. Nothing wrong with turning to food for comfort. And if this is you, if you're currently in this zone right now, brilliant. You know why? Because you can change it. That's exciting. If you are in that zone, that's exciting. Why? Because you can change it. If that's not set in stone, you don't have to keep turning to food for comfort. You don't have to keep binge eating. Who said you do? All it is that you've just got this specific action that you keep taking because it gives you a certain feeling. So what you need to do is figure out, can you do something else to give you the feeling? And if you do that, you'll be okay. You'll be able to change. You know, reach out to me if you struggle with that right now. If you struggle with binge eating, reach out to me and let's come up with a strategy together at how we can solve that. Because it's just the feeling that you want. It's not the food. It's It's the feeling, okay? So figure out something else that can give you that feeling. But like I said, guys, have an ask of yourself, what is the impact? Next time you feel like you're going to binge, right? What's the impact having on your life? What's the impact going to have on the way it makes you feel? If you get further down that list of it's going to affect my confidence, it's going to increase anxiety, it's going to lower my mental health, it's going to lower my happiness, I'm not going to be able to be the person that I want to be for this person in my life who I love. It's powerful. You know what I mean? Powerful. Start asking yourself those questions. Don't abandon those questions and don't abandon your goals. You know, if you have the right approach and the right strategy, it will work for you. Yeah. If it's not working for you right now, what does that mean? The current strategy that you have isn't working. So don't do the same things over and over. Got to challenge yourself to change. Maybe that's reaching out to me. Maybe that's extra accountability with your friends. Maybe that's posting your journey on your Instagram. That's quite powerful. You know, if you post on your Instagram, look, I'm going to follow this diet. Here's my starting point. Some leverage to hold to then. It's a bit of accountability. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to do that, but I see people do that. It's a bit of accountability. You know what I mean? It's accountability. You've got a higher leverage now. You've made it public, so you've got something to hold yourself to. I'm not saying you have to do that. That's just an option. You know, but you can tell your friends about your partner. You know, me. Why do you think people hire me for that coach? Accountability, it's powerful, very powerful. So if you're struggling right now, you're struggling to get a handle on your binge eating, ask yourself this question. What impact is it having on my life? Okay, and what other action can I take to give me the feeling that food gives me? Because that's what you're after. It's the feeling, it's not the food, it's the feeling. Okay, figure out what the feeling is, what it gives you, and then figure out another action that can give you that feeling. That's how you solve binge eating. That's how you eradicate binge eating. Just telling yourself you're not going to. It's not a diet problem. It's nothing to do with nutrition, this. It's all mindset. If you're binge eating, you think, oh, I need to go on a diet. If you just follow a diet, that's pretty boring, but that's going to get you great results. But if you haven't figured out what the feeling is, or what the action is that gives you the feeling of reducing stress, anytime you are following your diet but you feel stressed, you just turn back to the way you were before, because that's the only action you know that's powerful enough to make you feel better. Figure out the feeling. What does the feeling of food give you? What's the feeling? How can you get it from elsewhere? And then once you can get it from elsewhere that doesn't involve food, you will lower your stress, you'll get the feeling of comfort, and you'll be able to follow your diet, and your motivation will just go boom, boom, boom. Motivation is more like momentum of energy, okay? When you do something that you said you were going to, you step up the ladder, you move forward, motivation increases. When you do something again, motivation increases. Motivation is inspired by action. You don't just have motivation. You don't just wake up one day and go, I'm motivated now. You see things a different way and you do an action that gives you the motivation. Like if you follow your diet for a day, you're like, oh, I hit my diet bang on for a day now. I'm buzzing. You're going to wake up the next day slightly more motivated. You have another day following your diet, more motivated. Motivation is created, guys, just like every other emotion in your body. If you sit around and wait for it, it will never come. If you sit around and wait someone to give you it, it'll never come. You have to become internally motivated by your own actions, and you can only become internally motivated by your own actions by asking yourself powerful fucking questions. Like, what is the impact of me binge eating having on my diet? If you realise that, look, this is what's creating anxiety in my life, this is what's leading my body confidence to be zero, this is what's having an effect on my happiness, this is what's destroying my personal relationship. You know, I'm just naming things here. But that's the impact that, you know, being unhappy with the way you look can have. If you get clear on that and think, well, that's what's making us feel that way. You either value feeling like that and staying the same, or you value changing. There is no two other ways. If you keep going around in circles with your nutrition and keep staying the same, but then complaining that you're not getting the results that you want, that simply means that you value staying the same more than changing. But you don't value it because you're unhappy, aren't you? Yeah, you just turn it to short-term comfort. You're choosing short-term comfort over the way you feel, and then complaining about it after. So you've got to get clear, guys. You've got to be true to yourself. You've got to be honest. This takes balls, okay? Most people aren't willing to ask themselves these questions. They run away and hide mentally. We can do that. We can run away and hide mentally in our own heads. We can bury our head in the sand and forget about it. We'll sedate ourselves and pacify ourselves with other things to distract ourselves. Phones being one of them. Other people being another one. Friends, going out drinking, you know, turning to food. That's all distractions. It's all distractions from running away from what we're really talking about inside our head. You know, so figure it out. What is the feeling food gives you? Then figure out what other action you can take to give yourself that feeling. And also ask yourself these powerful questions. What current impact on your life is binge eating having? I guarantee you it's not a good one. So you need to get more clear on what the feeling is and come up with another action and ask yourself that question. What's the impact having on my life? And until you value actually sticking to your diet and changing the way you feel, you'll always turn to food for comfort. And you'll always value self-sabotaging more. Because why? It gives you a more powerful feeling. Okay? So I hope that covered a lot. Quite powerful, that one. Quite powerful. If anyone's struggling for binge eating, struggling for turning to food for comfort, reach out to me and let's come up with a strategy. Because that's all it is, guys. It's a strategy. You know, there's a strategy for success and there's also a strategy for failing. You know what I mean? A strategy is a repeated amount of actions that you continue on a daily basis that gives you the feeling, that gives you the results that you have. You know what I mean? So if you currently have the feeling and the results that you don't want, then the current strategy you have is not working. You need to change it. Otherwise, the feeling will never change. So I hope we covered a lot there, guys. Hope we covered a lot. Motivation, leverage, binge eating, comfort eating. We do it for a specific reason, So figure out a more powerful leverage. Figure out how your motivation is created. It's created off confidence. It's created off momentum. You've got to set yourself mini targets. You've got to hit them. You're more motivated. You're more confident. Then you go up the next bit. If you're just turning to food for comfort every time you start your diet, you've just shattered your confidence. No wonder you can't follow it. You've just shattered it. Yeah? So have a think, guys. What impact is it having on your life? And do you value the impact that it's having? Or do you value the impact that you want your life to have? You either value one more than the other. That's why you do it. So if you turn to food for comfort, all that means right now, you value doing that more than feeling happy. It's essentially that, guys. So powerful stuff for you to think about. Like I said, reach out if you're struggling for binge eating. If you're struggling for turning to food for comfort, reach out to me. Let's come up with a strategy. Let's create something new. Whether that's a behavior, whether that's just creating a strategy, a timetable, a meal plan, whatever. There's always ways you can do. But bottom line is, if you're currently going around in circles and you keep turning to food for comfort, figure out what is that feeling that it's giving me, and then something else can give you that feeling as well, and you'll be okay. Okay, so I hope we covered a lot there. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and that you benefit from this. Do me a favor, if you like the video, comment, tag your friends, who else is in the group, tell them to watch it, because we can help more people, we can positively impact more people. So yeah, have a wonderful day, guys. I'll speak to you very, very soon.